It is Elizabeth Off-Grid. And I wanted to talk a little bit about whether or not I consider myself homeless, because sometimes people have commented things regarding this in some of the comments. And also I think it is a common question about someone living in their car. So the short answer is no, I do not consider myself homeless for a few reasons. One, I consider my car my home. I feel homey about it. I feel safe and comfortable, and like this is all my stuff. And I've actually created kind of a nice space in here. Right now it's a little bit overrun because but I need to tidy up. But I've created a nice space in here, so I feel very homey. And I think that really makes it so I don't feel like this kind of homeless, unhoused idea. Second is I literally own a house. I own a rental property that has another family living in it, but I do own it and have a mortgage. Now you might say, well, why don't you live in that house? Well, then I'd have to kick those people out. It's a family of 10 who has foster children who are disabled. Like, I'm not going to be the kind of landlord who kicks people out of a house in that situation, right? No, I'm not kicking them out. And what I have to do for me to live in it, or I'd have to kick them out for me to sell it. And the thing is, if I sold that house, then I'd have, like, that's a whole nother story. But no, I'm not going to kick them out so I can sell it or so I can live in it. Doesn't make sense, both kind of morally and also from the perspective of my long-term goals, because I'm good living in a car. This isn't something that I am forced into exactly. It's partly a choice. Third reason is there's a big difference between living in a car and living on the street. And I would say there's actually kind of different tiers. There's people who are literally living on the street. There's people who are living in a car or RV that doesn't move. So they're not on the street, like the actual street or sidewalk or whatever, but or in a tent, an encampment, but they're living in a vehicle that doesn't move. And because it doesn't move, that really changes the dynamic. And a vehicle that doesn't move really puts you at a lot more risk and isn't as useful, obviously, as a vehicle that does. So if you're in a vehicle that moves, whether it's a car or a van or an RV or whatever, you are in a much better place, even if you've been forced into it, than someone who's living in a vehicle that doesn't move, than someone who's living in an encampment or on the street in some way, shape, or form. So people who are in those situations need help and a lot more resources, and there is a systemic failure on behalf of those people. Where someone in my situation, radically different thing. I don't really need like government assistance kind of things, I'm just figuring things out, and this is part of my journey of figuring things out, versus someone who really does need help because they're in a much more precarious kind of a situation. Now, does anybody else consider me homeless? I'm sure that I run into people in the world, including the cop who knocked on my window, including who knows who else, who look in my car and see that I have a bed in here, and they may put me in the category of being homeless or unhoused or whatever. The thing is, to a certain extent, if I don't know that they think that, then who cares, right? It doesn't really matter. I think the only time it matters is if they're going to actually take some action against me and I'm going to have troubles because of it. But generally speaking, I don't really interact with people where I know that they think that. So no, I don't consider myself homeless. However, I do run into a little bit of difficulties because I don't have a traditional life setup, like the fact of having a residential location. Like when I did my jury duty service, I had to check a box of, do you reside in this county, and what's your residential address? I don't have a residential address in this county where I literally live at, like there's no way for me to answer that question. So there's certain kind of government things where it's like, I don't even know how to actually answer this because there isn't an answer. And I say this as a lawyer, there isn't a good answer for this. Where do I reside? I mean, I do reside in this county for sure. I'm here more than I am in other places, but I don't have a residential address here. I have places I can get mail, so it creates a lot of weirdness. But those are not things that are not that difficult for me to navigate, especially because I'm a lawyer, so I can navigate it easier than most people. And also because I'm just in a better situation than someone who I would put in the category of needing a lot more services, whether they're living on the street or in an encampment or in a vehicle that doesn't move. So again, this is Elizabeth Off-Grid. You want to say hi? Leave a comment. Don't forget to support the channel by hitting the thumbs up button or subscribing if you haven't already, or if you want to follow along with the other things that are happening as I'm going through this adventure. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.